Today is September 20th, 2022. This is the Hannah City Village Council meeting. If you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. First item up is recognition of guests. I'm not even going to try that, Jody.
Okay.
So if you come to the podium and tell us who you are and why you're here.
And Jody, in their packet, they've got the information that you've submitted, so everybody's got a copy of that.
I'm Jody Mackenzie Dahlstrom. That's my maiden name. I have that on there, most of my business, so I'm sure anybody's gonna Google or look anyone up. And I just thought I'd make it a little easier. I am here to ask for a meeting to add an additional liquor license, if possible. I understand that there are no more available in the village, and I did acquire the Hannah City tab, so I am in the process of renovating it. I know that, I don't know if any of you have stopped in, I know one has, but it's in the process of, I don't know, some TLC, some long overdue TLC, so it is a matter of, I did not apply for any corporate or anything, just because if I did, I would need to know exactly what I'm doing with the building. So it would be no different really than what it was, just liquor, food, gaming. You know, I would ask for gaming. A lot as far as me and my business, it's very hard to keep a business of that nature going without a gaming license too. So that would be, you know, I would ask for both of those. So, and to answer any questions that any of you may have. I do incorporate all of my businesses and I hold all offices. So I am the only business owner. My husband is self-employed, so he stays busy with his businesses and I stay busy with mine. So I was in business before I met and got married, so it was just easier. We were a little older before, so.
Were you associated with this place before?
No, my mom took care of all of her stuff up until the night before. Even, you know, as the cops were there that night, you know, checking her out, she was like, she's not in control of me, you know, so she was very much still in control of all of her own stuff. I mean, I stop by and visit her, and I am, you know, I know Randy Massey, and my dad lives in Hannah City in the Heritage Senior Village, so, and I'm through Hannah City all the time. I watch, you know, I'm in business in Yates City and Elwood, so it's a small community. We share the same school district with Yates City, so you pay attention to what is going on. I also do the Harvest Home out there, which is our little carnival we have once a year. So it's one of those things. I'm at fall festival. I come over to your guys's, you know. So it's a small town, you know. I have my place in Yates City. I've been there 20 years. And then I have the Elmwood Tap, and I've been there 11 years. And then next to it, when I bought the Elmwood Tap, I also acquired the vacant building next door. So I do a lot of catering. So I, at that time, I rented Yates City's community center to do my cooking and stuff. So I turned that into a banquet hall, which we rent out for if somebody wants to have a bridal shower, wedding shower, or whatever. And then I do my catering out of there. I have a kitchen in there. And then I recently, at the beginning of the year, opened the Elmwood Place, which is a gaming place in Elmwood. I bought the old hardware store and renovated it, and we didn't have any room for a bar, so it's a gaming place.
Right across from the theater.
Yes,
Looks
yes,
really nice.
and
I've
they're
been by there.
actually, now that we've done the outside of the Elmwood Place, I noticed they're getting a facelift over there, so. it's nice.
How long ago was that?
That I opened that, well, I bought the building a year and a half ago, and then I opened it, and got it going in February. So technically, March, I had to wait. The health department was still out with COVID, so we were on a waiting list there. And that was another reason. Obviously, I still have work to do there, but like there, it took me 6 months to get on the agenda for the gaming. So as far as like here, I didn't know what date to put because obviously I would not be opening in October. But the sooner I was able and approved for a local license, I can get that state license, which then I can apply for the gaming license. So it's just once you guys approve it, it's gonna take me a week to 2 days if need be, but to incorporate, depends. I've had the state take a week to get back with me with the corporate number, and I've had them take 5 minutes. So, and once I get that, then it's a matter of getting, the liquor liability, and I would carry all of those expenses until I got open, just because you're going to carry liquor liability even though there's not a drop of liquor in the place. But in order to get those licenses and have it in a timely fashion, so I'm not eating the payroll costs, the SOCO and everything without those machines for 6 months. So.
Right.
That's just, how step by step and the short term of how all that takes place.
And all of your other locations have gaming.
Yes, yes, yes. I have 5 in Yates City, and that's only because my place in Yates City is a little bit bigger than maybe this room, okay? And then, so we only have 5. It was a matter of not having a place to stick another one. Otherwise, all of mine carry 6. I noticed she did not have 6. I do not know why, because as any of you can get on and look up her revenue, she was doing around 70,000 in revenue from, the machines. So you don't have to do that much to have 6 machines in your business.
You've been going for all 6.
Yes. Yes.
Are you sending the,
Yes, I am.
I figured when we were talking.
I always hear, not so much that I get the side view look, but the voice.
You talked about TLC to the building. Are you addressing the foundation? I know that
Yes.
was, okay.
Yes, the foundation is being addressed. The floor, at this point, we're just going to rip it up. We've ripped out, I did not bring my phone in. I did take some pictures today. The bar is gone, the walls, there were a couple. We went in and ripped out the apartment. At this point, when I met with the contractor again, I think at this point, I'm not a Band-Aid person, okay? I'm not a quick fix. I like things fixed because eventually I'm too hoping to retire someday, and I don't want the next person to have to walk into a headache at any place. It's hard enough going into business and starting out or keeping it going as it is, let alone, I don't know why we would only spend $2,000 and fix the electrical to get by when you're just gonna keep it in 2,000 every single year, and we could have just fixed it right for 10 or 12 or 20, whatever.
Sure.
In the first place,
I understand.
So that's where it got with the floor, as we just went, it's like, okay, I've done this before, let's just pick it up, why are we gonna Band-Aid it, let's just take it up and not just structurally fix it here or there in the low spots, like, just take it up and get some new. How much more, I mean, when you're gonna put a whole new subfloor anyway, how much more are you looking at to put, new rafters or whatever you wanna call them, I
Sure.
know.
Floor joists.
Yes, there you go.
Joists,
So,
trusses.
all of them, so, and I think my contractor, I've worked with him, but I think it was shocked just because I had just a little bit of damage at my banquet hall, and I kept telling him, like, hey, I put a new floor in here, I want this fixed, and I want it fixed right, and I should not be doing this. I'm like 9 years into this banquet hall, I started from scratch. I took it all the way down to the walls, and he's like, okay. No, he actually went down there to look. He's like, you're not lying. Like, this is all brand new. I was like, what part did you not understand?
Sure.
I want this fixed right, and
Sure.
I do not want to have to come back in and redo it. So,
The way our process works is we'll hear from you tonight, and then we have to upgrade our code to increase the number of both gaming and liquor licenses. And so that would require us to work with the attorneys and get all that drafted and ready for our next meeting, which would be October 4th, assuming that's what the board wants us to do. So that's the way our process would work.
okay.
Yep.
What type of
I'll be honest, to start out, it would be bargain. Just because you have the wing place, Randy's putting in a big kitchen, and you have Casey's, which you can get any and everything from now, So you got the warehouse who they serve, a more expensive menu, I would say. And then you have Gills who obviously they're known for their chicken and stuff. So it would just be simple burger, bar food. Just start
Something
out
for
with.
somebody to eat while they're drinking as opposed to
Yeah.
going there specifically for food,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, to comfort them, and I'm not saying eventually there wouldn't be, hey Jody, we'd like to see catfish, or we'd like to see frog legs, or, something like that, but at least figure out what is the call, does that make sense? So I mean, it'll been a year, basically, that it's closed, so it's just a matter of, once again, trying to, everybody that went there, they found a new place to go. So it's a matter of trying to get a clientele back in there. I mean, people are nosy, okay? So they're gonna stop and see what's going on just because that's human nature. We all do, what they doing there? They going by, they've seen the dumpster out there. They're no different than any one of us, especially if they live in town. They like to know what's going on in their neighborhood, so they'll be full of opinions and what they want and what we should do. And that's basically who picks it, because I could name 100 things, but if they're not gonna come and eat it, it's not gonna do any good. So there's no sense in me putting out something that I don't even know what they want yet.
Would you be open for lunch?
Yes. I do not know exactly what your hours of operation are. My goal would be, probably to open at 9 or 11, just because there is nowhere else open at 11 at this point, or at 9 o'clock in the morning for gambling in town. And there are a lot of older people who do get up to go do their gambling and get home by noon because they have shows or they have to get dinner. Older people, their dinner is at noon, and so there is a lot that like to go gamble early. So I don't know what your, village hours are. So I know she always opened at noon or 2 or whatever she felt like that day. I am very, we open at this time. And I will say she was very adamant about people staying open until 2 o'clock. I'm not quite that adamant. If you don't have anyone in there at 11 or 12 o'clock, there's no sense in, everybody's time is worth something. There's no sense in somebody sitting there for a minimum wage job with no customers.
Caleb's usually there till 2, just about every night.
His wife's normally dragging him out.
Yeah.
Does anybody,
But, you know, I'm one of those, it doesn't matter if you have one person sitting there putting those machines, you don't, you know. I mean, I don't know if any of you gamble or not, but it's very easy to stick 20s in there per se, you know.
anybody else have anything for Jody? Well, thank you very much,
All
Jody.
right.
The board will discuss it and then we will go from there.
All right,
Okay?
sounds good.
Like we
Thank
tell
you.
everybody, you're welcome to stay, but you don't have to. You won't offend us if you go. So
Oh.
either,
Unless you want to stay for our audit report, which
I
is
know,
just
I'm
tantalizing.
perfectly good. I deal with enough of those on my own. Thank you. Have a good day.
all right. Thanks, Jody.
Thanks.
Aaron, you're up, sir.
All right. Okay, thanks for allowing me to present tonight. We've got the April 30th, 2022 audit in front of you. The audited financial statements and then the required communication letter, the 3-page letter is there for you as well. So we're done with the audit. And we'll get that filed. We also, there's a state report, the annual financial report, which is something that we do online through the comptroller. We need to do that, but basically, we're data entering stuff from the audit, putting it in there, and then submitting it. So we'll get that done. The due date on that is October 26th. So we'll get that done here in the next couple of weeks.
Does that include the TIF or is that separate?
The TIF is in here, but Jacob Klein will do the TIF report as well.
But you need to send them information, or have you already?
I have not until today, until we get the audit filed.
Okay.
But then I will send them the audit, which has all the information that they need to do their end.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. So second year performing the audit. Again, it's a clean opinion. You're on the modified cash basis of accounting. So we look at long-term assets, long-term liabilities, but we're not concerned with accounts receivable at year end and accounts payable at year end. So, which pretty much all municipalities your size are on this basis of accounting. So clean opinion, everything worked out fine. We had very few journal entries. So I think we had like one journal entry. Now we did journal entries for booking capital assets and booking depreciation, but you pay us to do that as, at the end of the year in the course of the audit. We've got the software for that. It just makes sense. But really, for Cassandra to come on and this be her first audit that for the village, and to only have one journal entry is pretty impressive. She's an awesome addition, and her and Tracy have things running really smooth, and so it's from that end, it's really good. It's a pleasure to work with you guys, and it's always nice to have an audit where I'm not scrambling trying to figure stuff out, because it's all there. So, let's see. Audit process, we're with municipalities, when we're doing our audit, we get the information from Cassandra, and then we're going out to third parties and we're verifying what she says she has versus what the banks. So we're looking at bank reconciliations. We're looking at what the bank says your cash balances are. We're looking at, we're confirming with the Illinois EPA what your loan balance is. All the revenues, all the state revenues, motor fuel tax, sales tax, income tax, you know, all the things that come through the state, we're verifying with the state. So, you know, when your numbers say, hey, this is the sales tax that came in this year, I verify that. So, the only things that we don't verify with third parties, or the things we can't verify with third parties are like your water and sewer receipts, your billings and receipts. We're not gonna send confirmations to customers and ask them to look at their bills, and, you know, that's pretty ineffective. So we do a lot of detailed testing on the water and sewer, and we're looking at customers, we're looking at activity, we're tracing through deposits, through the system, you know, doing what we can internally to get comfortable with those numbers. And we didn't see anything that was out of line, that looked weird. You know, the adjustment reports on a monthly basis are getting approved by Brian, so which is exactly what you want. On, you know, disbursements, you know, money going out, you know, we do a sample of all the disbursements that go out the door. We're checking those, looking at invoices, verifying. Didn't see anything out of the ordinary on those. Everything was appropriate. Bank reconciliations, look at those, make sure those are done timely, make sure those are reviewed. And then, you know, look at your monitoring controls. You know, so Cassandra has control of the general ledger system. She's also issuing bills, you know, has her hands in deposits, you know, so she's doing a lot of things. So she has a lot of access to things where, you know, in a big corporation, somebody who's in control of the general ledger would not have access to check stuff, would not have access to the deposits. You know, so in a big organization, you know, it's the access is segregated. In a small organization, that's not the case. So you have to look at monitoring controls and, hey, what oversight is there to keep, you know, the city safe, to keep controls in place. And so, and that's where Brian comes in. You know, he's reviewing bank statements. Bank statements come directly to Brian. He's reviewing those, looking at the canceled checks that come along with the bank statements. Let's see. You know, budget to actual, you know, creating the budget, you know, so Brian's working with the board, creating the budget, then the, you know, looking at the budget to actuals on a monthly basis, and then the reporting that's done at, you know, at council, you know, all the reports that he does. So when I look at what you guys get on a monthly basis, you know, financially, what you get as a council, I mean, it's about as good as what I see, you know, coming, you know, finances coming, you know, for you to take a look at and review. So, you know, I don't really, from an internal process standpoint, I don't have a lot of recommendations on that. The recommendations I do have was, I think we implemented last year the review of the unopened bank statement. That's a good one, and I think you should continue to do that one. The other one, Cassandra is a check signer, so she is authorized on the accounts. Typically, that's another one of those access things, and I guess my thought is, why does Cassandra need to be authorized on the accounts? And I think most of the time, the person that is handling the general ledger and doing the work typically is not someone who is also authorized on the bank accounts. So I think from a, you know, I don't think it's just best practices, I guess is my thought here, is that typically that access is not there. And with as much, you know, close-knit, you know, community, you've got, you know, active board members, you've got Brian, you can manage, you know, you can manage signing checks and paying bills without Cassandra being a check signer. So I think I'm gonna throw that one out there and just say, hey, consider this, you know, because, you know, as a best practice.
Yeah, I think that's just historical, right? Because before there was an administrative position, there needed to be somebody in the staff position to sign it. Well, now I'm here. We've got 2 board members that can sign, and then I can be a backup to that. And then we can pull Cassandra off, and I think that works just fine, so.
Yeah, I mean, we're not limiting her access to view
Yeah.
online bank activity, you know, not really limiting, it's just, she can't go to the bank and speak on behalf of the city, which I don't know why she would, but, you know, initiate transfers, I mean, there's a lot of things that it probably makes sense to have her off, as authorized. The other thing is, I've said how good all your processes are, and we go through and things are working really well. What about documenting those procedures, those policies, and getting an accounting and finance manual that says, you know, this is how Cassandra does things, you know, and detail that all out. Because, you know, we know, you know, with turnover and, you know, people aren't gonna be here forever. You know, board
I'm not
members are gonna
going anywhere.
change. Yeah,
We just got her.
I'm not going
She's not going
anywhere.
anywhere.
Totally, but with things going as well as they are, I think it would be great to have, you know, it doesn't, you know, if it was 6 to 8 pages of, hey, this is how I do things. These are the monitoring controls that we just talked about, you know, the director is reviewing X, Y, and Z, you know, on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, you're doing this. Cassandra, you know, how do you do payroll? How do you do your, you know, how do you process bills? How are you doing your bank reconciliation? You know, just the procedures, get those written down. That way it's out there for everybody. That way, if something catastrophic did happen, you'd have a book to go to and say, hey, this is how the city does things. So that's you know, there's not a lot of low-lying fruit here in this organization. This is one that most municipalities don't have, but I think you have the staff in place that it'd be really good if you did put some effort and, you know, put some resources towards that. Just from a risk management standpoint. And then the fourth recommendation is when the business development district started up, there were some bills that were paid before revenue was generated in that fund. And it's to the tune of about $16,000. And that the TIF paid for some, actually the TIF paid for some on accident, and then the general fund paid for some. And so my recommendation is, now that the BDD generated about 127,000 of sales tax revenue last year, there is, let's see, it's, yeah, pay it back. It's $23,000 is what is total between the BDD owes the TIF fund 11,000, and then about 12,000 back to the general fund. I don't see why you wouldn't pay that money back now that you generate the cash for it. So those are the recommendations. Any questions on?
Just a point of
So
clarification. So if we do that, we pay back the BDD money, the only thing that would still owe on the economic development side is TIF still owes general. Is that right?
And that's about that's 157,000. So I think the TIF entered into development agreements and then needed funding from the general fund to get that development up and going. So that you know, there was talk, I think we talked about, well, could we just wipe that out, you know, and do a transfer, you know, get a board approved transfer. But really, I don't think we want to do that. I think we want to keep that, and hopefully the TIF will generate enough income in the future to pay that back.
But if we pay the BDD, everything's square with the exception of the TIF owing general, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep. So if we got a little time, we can go through the numbers, if that sounds good. Page 4, you guys want to turn it in the bound financials. The page 4 is a statement of net position. So you've got governmental activities is your general fund, motor fuel, all the funds except for the garbage and the water sewer. So water and sewer and garbage are in the business type activities, but statement of net position is like a balance sheet. So you've got your assets, got your liabilities, and what's left is net position, or in a business world, would be like your net worth. In total, just top, you've got cash and you've got restricted cash. Total of that is about $1,558,000. Last year, that was $1,316,000. That's an increase entity-wide, government-wide, of about $242,000 of cash and restricted cash, more in April 22 than you had in April of 21. So significantly more cash. But how does that, okay, so we've got $1.5 million of reserves. What does that mean? How does that relate to our operations? And operations wise, on a historical basis, some smoothing with capital purchases, your operating costs are, say about $1.3 million a year, all in. So you've got like 15 months of operating costs in reserves. And so when I look at that, how does that look compared to other municipalities? Is that enough? I can remember years ago, at a government conference, 3 to 6 months of operating reserve was considered a lot, was considered good. Well, we're way past that. I think everybody is past that. So I went and looked at some comparable, I think one smaller municipality and six larger ones. I think the largest one I looked at was probably not comparable, but was about 15,000 residents. And I just wanted to see how much reserves they had compared to their expenses. And the lowest one had 9 months of reserves on hand, and the highest one had 20 months of reserves on hand. Average worked out to be about 15 months, which is exactly where you guys are. So you guys, if I were to say, you don't want to be too high, you don't want to be too low, I think you guys you're in a great spot. If the state changes things, we can look at all the state allotments over the last 5 years, and they've all gone up. The city municipalities, every one of them is probably in better financial position now than they were 5 years ago. At least the 20 or so clients that I deal with. I mean, so very, very strong financials, and you don't want to be on the tail end of that, on an economic downturn, because then, they're going to look at things and say, hey, the municipalities are doing okay. Well, you don't want to be one of them that's an outlier. So you guys are in a great spot. And right within, what I think you should do. Liabilities, the only liability, you've got customer deposits on the water sewer. And then you have an Illinois EPA loan, which is principal and interest payments are about $30,000 a year. That's going to go on for another 10 years. So total liabilities, $337,000. You've got $285,000 left on that loan. So, but that's the only liabilities that you have out there, long-term liabilities that you have out there.
Back to your point on cash reserves, though, if we found ourselves at 18 or 20,000 or 20 months of cash, one of the options might be to pay off that loan.
Yeah, that is an option.
Or spend it on water sewer projects or whatever, but
That's exactly where I'm going, sir.
Okay, sorry.
I think they want us to keep the 15 months worth of.
No, agreed, but
Yeah,
I'm
but
saying
you
if we
go
wound up,
beyond
if we continue to be cash flow positive, which we are, and we wind up at 16 or 17 or 18 months, now we've got additional cash. More cash doesn't necessarily mean better, right? You can do things with that money, improve water or sewer that we need to do, or pay off the loan and get rid of the interest, which is still low. It's a low rate.
Yeah.
Um,
it's less than two.
Yeah, so that's pretty
It's
hard.
an option, I don't know that.
That's hard, it's hard to get something like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
We won't get that to fix anything else we need to fix right now, so
No.
if we get ahead, we definitely want to get progress.
Absolutely. Turn to page 7. I'll look at the, cash and reserves are up 242,000. I mean, every fund, every one of the governmental funds, except for the motor fuel tax fund, has a higher balance. On motor fuel tax, you did a lot of seal coating and a lot of work last year on the roads, and the year before, you didn't spend any money out of the motor fuel tax. So it was kind of a doubling up. So that's why that cash balance went down. But and the big one here, I mean, I think you're gonna be, I think with as good as the BDD is going, you guys are gonna be looking for projects and looking for things to spend money on. Especially with the ARPA funds coming, there's you received 80,000.
81,105.46, it came yesterday.
And so now that you got 81, last year you've got another 81,000, and now with what you're doing in the BDD, I think there's gonna be a lot of opportunities to make some good improvements here, for sure. I can sit here and talk about how good things look and keep going here.
Yeah, just keep going on.
Let's see. Page 10, like I said, the big one is the BDD. BDD is 127,000 of revenue. You spent about $20,000 on park improvements, so you've already started putting that money to work in the community. Let's see.
That check's coming back.
We started.
We're gonna, just a sidebar, they've kind of re-scoped the work that they're gonna do over there, and so they're not sure how soon they're gonna spend it, so we're gonna retrieve that 26 grand. It doesn't mean they're not gonna come back later and ask for it again, but I think they believe that they've found better ways maybe to spend that money, and so I sent a note today asking for it back, and they're gonna do that, so.
Yeah, instead of just having it sit out there in limbo, I asked that, since they haven't used the funds, that Brian sent an email to the president of the board, and we'll say they will probably end up returning that to us.
That sounds good. Yep. And then page 14, water and sewer revenues and expenses. That's where your ARPA money, that's where that first 81,000 came in. And then also charges for services, 479,000 in the water and sewer fund. Last year that was 445,000. So that's a $34,000 increase in services. This year, there was a pretty significant rate increase as of 1/1/2021 that accounted for that, and I would guess that number is going to be even higher once we get a full year of that rate increase. And I think potentially, was there another rate increase as of 1/1?
Not as of 1/1, as of, what was it, June?
Oh, this summer?
Yeah, so next year's
So
gonna be.
that's going to be in next year's.
Yeah.
Next year's numbers as well. So back to page 60. Two more things and then I'll be gone, I promise. Page 60, we look at the general fund, the operating fund of the city, and here's a 5-year trend analysis of the revenues and the expenses. So this year, 2022, total revenues in the general fund were 638,000. And you can see that trend every year that has gone up. Back to my point where sales tax, video gaming, all of those taxes have been increasing over the last 5 years. State income tax, use tax, state allotment, that is strictly, that's really out of your control, and that's up, like I said, those numbers are up huge.
Wow, the video gaming tax really jumped this year,
Yeah.
17 to 46.
That's a big one.
That's huge.
Yep. And then on the expense side, expenses are up. This year, wages were up. I think we had a full year of Brian's wages in there, and legal expenses related to the railroad, I think is in there. I think the legal expenses were up like $68,000. So, yeah, pretty significant there.
That's an example of where we pulled from cash reserves, even though it's in the income statement, we pulled from cash reserves to cover it.
Absolutely. The last thing is municipal retirement. So if we go to flip forward to page 38, there's a lot of talk about funding of downstate, police and fire pensions and underfunding of municipal retirement. And so there's a lot of detail here, but on page 38, this is your portion of the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, which is the only fund that you contribute to. And it is showing that down here, city's net pension liability, this year, they're showing that you actually have more assets in reserve than what your calculated liability is. So that negative $10,000 is actually a positive for you, that basically you're overfunded in your pension, in your actuarial calculation, way more math than I did. But yeah, basically they're saying you're overfunded right now, which is, if we look at some police funds are, police fire funds, they might be like 30% funded. And what does that mean? That means that your contribution rates are pretty consistent. You're not having to, pick up and put in a bunch of money into your pension to make up for, this underfunding. So page 40 is a detail of the last like 7 years of your wages, and then what the city paid in to IMRF and the percent of payroll. So like I said, in 2015, your rate was 10%. In 2021, the rate is 11%. So you've done really well. These are good numbers. And investment returns, I mean, I'm sure that we're not going to see next year. I'm sure the investment returns that come through in 22 are not going to be what they were in 21, unless something really changes here in the fourth quarter. But as of, and this report is as of December 31 of 21. You're in really good shape. So again, not a financial positive. Can't find anything negative really. So, any questions?
I have a question back to the taking me off the bank accounts. I don't know if there's a question for you, if this is a question for us internally, but I figured while you're here. So if you take me off the bank accounts completely, that doesn't hurt my feelings. I just want to make sure it doesn't impede my ability to do transfers and everything on the bank online.
Okay, it should. You'll have to, and maybe it does, but maybe you create that, that transfer and Brian makes that transfer.
Okay, because I do payroll every week. I do monthly transfers. I do the bank reconciliation, I have to have access to the online for all of that.
Okay, I
Um,
think we can probably do it.
Okay, I just want to make sure that.
Let's ask the bank and see what they
Okay.
say, and then, because the other option would be is just to leave her on, but but then just don't let her to sign checks,
She would
right?
just wouldn't be an authorized signature, she'd be an
Yeah,
authorized.
that's kind of, I thought that's what everybody meant, take her off, it's not, that's why she couldn't disperse money outward, but she could trade it back and forth.
Okay.
Amongst our accounts.
Exactly,
Because
amongst
right
our
now, you
accounts.
can just transfer among your accounts.
Right.
To do a wire transfer outside of your accounts takes two signatures.
That's not what we do. We don't do any of those
Never
anyway.
done it, yeah.
Okay.
But every expense requires board approval. I mean,
Yeah.
they see a warrant list every 2 weeks. So every dollar that's spent is reviewed and approved.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Put the signatory away, just keep the building on. Or,
Fine. Like I said, doesn't hurt my
Right,
feelings.
and then
I just-
two signatures on every check.
Yeah.
Correct. And so probably we'll move to a process where it'll be Jeffrey and Tony, and I can be backup.
that way she- stuff, yeah.
Because I want to make sure that like I can pay payroll and
Yeah, exactly.
direct deposit and stuff on that.
Yeah, we'll make sure.
Okay, just making sure.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate your time tonight, and, thanks to Brian, Cassandra, and Tracy, for all their hard work and getting the stuff I needed to do the audit.
Just,
Appreciate it.
just to summarize 4 recommendations. Continue to have me do the bank statements. Cassandra off the sign line, put together a process manual, and pay back the 23,000 from BDD.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and the process manual is, pretty far, that would be great. I mean, that's,
A year from now.
yeah, if you've got other things going, I mean, I get that. That's not a very high, it's not a high priority, but it would be a best practice one. Well, thanks again.
Thank you. I believe we normally, we have a vote on. Yeah, sure.
I'll make a motion to accept the 21-22 audits report and we implement all the recommendations.
Have a motion by Charvali.
That's my mistake.
I'll let him have it.
Second, Ryan Pearson. Any further discussion? I guess we'll do a roll call on that since there are some payable issues under there. So we'll roll call it. Weaver?
Yes.
Miller? Pearson?
Yes.
Charvali?
Yes.
Sidak?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you very much, Aaron.
Thanks for your time.
And then we'll still need to sign the audit report, or is that what I?
No,
No.
I think we've signed everything, right?
Yep, and then you'll file it with the state.
Yep, so the AFR I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna send, Kelly Jacob the audit file so she can do the test. Those are the two outstanding.
Okay.
So, very
Thank you
good.
very much.
Thank you, sir.
So that brings us down to approval of previous minute meeting. Everybody should have a copy of the September 6th meeting minutes. Caleb probably can recite them word for word.
Second.
Motion by Weaver, second by Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Treasurer's report.
Nothing out of the ordinary, guys. Pretty standard stuff.
We did just get an email this afternoon. Denise and myself did for the sheriff's department. Renewed contract. They want to look at doing a 5-year contract with incremental increases. Of course, as we've always had increment increases. It looks like for the 2023 increase was would be on our monthly installment would be about $178 a month increase.
That's it.
That's it. And then 100, and I think it goes 180. Yeah, 176 for the first year, which would be for 2023, then 180 for the 2024, and then they incrementally go up. Same.
So ours didn't take nearly as big a hit as he was saying some of the other communities would.
Correct.
What'd you say is going up every?
180.
Well, right now, it's approximately about $180 a month.
Hey, Clay, can you unmute?
Yeah. What's up?
Quick question. What do we need to do? What's the legal process for approving the new contract with the sheriff?
Approving the new contract with the sheriff probably requires an ordinance like most other things. We could get that drafted up quickly, but nothing special. It might have a certain threshold voting requirement, but if everybody's on board sort of as a basis, that won't be a stumbling block.
Okay. It's an intergovernmental agreement already, Clay, I believe right now, so that's what we go off of. They've actually sent us one, a draft form of it.
So would we need to do both the intergovernmental agreement and an ordinance, Clay?
I believe so. I'm not 100% on that. I'll have to
Okay.
check.
I made it as an action item for the next meeting, and I'll follow up with you and Bill then after.
Perfect.
Okay.
I'll
Thank you.
look into it.
I got the impression some of the other towns were getting double-digit percentage
Like
increases.
West Peoria, which,
Yeah, well, like Medina Township, besides what we do, they do, I think the weekends during the summer, they have 2 bike cops that do like Saturday afternoons and evenings. I mean, they have like these specialized things they want patrol-wise. But they have a same officer shows up to every meeting, every time, sits during the whole meeting for security. I mean, they do have a lot of specialized requests that I think are getting very expensive to satisfy, so.
so I will entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Motion by Sidak, second by Weaver. Any further discussion? Roll call it. Miller?
Yeah.
Pearson?
Yes.
Chervali?
Yeah.
Sidak?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
And Weaver. I don't know why I have trouble remembering that. Motion carries. Brandon,
Good evening.
I talked to Robert and he gave me some good stories about you.
Surprised you're still not up there. Those stories take a while. I did send them a warning and asked them to be nice to you and not to tease me too much. So maybe I shouldn't have added that second part. But I'm glad that you got a chance to go up and meet with some folks. And I had mentioned to them that you recognize the resources available to you up there. So I'm glad they at least got to say hi.
Yeah, they did during the conference. So Robert and I can't remember the other gentleman I talked to, the younger guy was with Robert. So they were both very, very nice and very informative. So
Yeah, Bob actually hired me, so he's responsible for me.
We know who to blame.
Yep, 25 years ago.
I got his email. So
But I didn't have anything to report this evening. I just wanted to poke my head in to see if I was needed for anything.
I don't think so, Brandon.
And if not, I do have another obligation I can catch the second half of if you don't need me, and if that's okay. But if not, I'll stick around.
Nope, you're
Nope.
free to go.
Thank you very much.
All righty. Thank you all very, very much. I hope you enjoy your evening. We'll talk to you in a few weeks.
So it brings us down to the attorney's report, Clay.
Obviously what we discussed earlier, if you could send me an email, I'll get on that tomorrow. Other than that, I'll keep it brief, nothing really to report. I talked to Bill earlier, no unsettled business. I will let him know that there was a 4.0 on the audit. I'm sure that will make him very happy. That was a very impressive report. You stood there and told everybody that you did great on pretty much everything. So I'm sure that's what everybody wanted to hear. Other than that, it is a pleasure to be with you all here tonight.
Thank you, Clay.
Administrators report.
The heavy sigh. So this is back-to-back meetings with financials, and the reason we've got financials is we skipped the one meeting, but this is the August results. So this is month 4 of the fiscal year. So 1 quarter plus 1 month. The slide that says August core funds. So income, you follow the blue lettering down, and we had income of 101,189, expenses of 97,682. So we were positive $3,507. But it is important to note that when we did the MFT program this last year, we did not, because we thought that the expenses were going to be higher, we did not bid Runkle, which was one of the streets that we wanted to do. But then when we got a 20% lower bid than what we thought we were going to get, we had the money to do it. So we took it out of streets. So that this month includes 18,000 of the streets money that we pulled the cash from savings in to cover. But if we'd have actually been 22 or, close to 22,000 to the good if you don't count that street money. So it was, again, another good month. If you look at the next slide, then it shows you the core funds per month. We're positive on everything except for general. And again, if you put the 18,000 in there, then we're fine. MFT, this was the month where all the big expenses hit for the work that they did. So that's why we had 49,346 of expenses, and we'll catch up as income comes in later in the year. As far as TIF, pretty standard month of 1,100 to the good. Keep in mind, next month we'll run the BDD transfer, so this will go up. We'll have another, $11,000 of income that'll come into TIF, which honestly will give us a good cash basis to operate on because we've been operating negatively up to this point. Just a little side note, earlier this year, we had already moved $5,000 from BDD to TIF. We took that off what BDD owed TIF. So the new amount, that 11,000 that's coming in, is a net number. Does that make sense? We owed it 16. We already paid it 5. Okay. July BDD. So there'll be we'll be transferring $23,000 out of here next month to general and TIF. So that next month we'll have a hit. Monthly summary. So per my note, Denise, this is kind of what I would use this page for the minutes.
Okay.
So core funds was positive 3,500. Again, if you count the 1,800, it would have been better. MFT was negative 45 because all the expenses hit. TIF was positive, BDD was positive. Next, year-to-date core funds. The key thing here is we have year-to-date, if you count everything. So remember we did the transfers and the one-off spends on the capital with the skid steer and all that. The key number to remember is if you take all that stuff and factor it in, we got 621,000 of income, 486 of expenses, and our year-to-date positive through 4 months is 134,425. So through 4 months, we're about $135,000 to the good, all in, even with those other one-off things. So again, our cash is growing. If you look at the next slide, then you can see the variances. But remember, we created 2 water and sewer accounts. So the fact that water is negative and sewer is so much positive is because we transferred dollars between there. So the next slide then is I take out all the one-off stuff. And the 165 number is not as good as the 135 number. The 135 number is really where we're at year to date. But if you look at the income and the expenses, this is closer to what our actual performance is for the month. So our actual income is 493. Our actual expenses were 327 if you take out those one-time only things, if that makes sense. So I do that just so I can compare it against budget. So we're still performing well. The next slide, I think the key point I would make here is if you look down the variance, everything is positive, including water.
Yay.
So I can't remember, this is the first month that I think we've had everything operationally positive. Yep. So that's good. Year to date, we're good. The next slide is year-to-date MFT. So MFT is year-to-date 36,000 to the negative, but remember we've got another 8 months of income coming in that'll help pick that back up. Year-to-date TIF. So we're currently at 12,000 to the good. Remember we got to give the rebate on the residential side, so that's probably $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. So we're probably only 4,000 to the good, but we bring that 11,000 in next month, and that'll bump that up, and I think we'll have the operational cash on the TIF side to do some things. 46,000 to the good on BDD through 4 months, but we're going to transfer 23 out. So that number will drop next month. And then this is another good slide, Denise, for the minutes. So year-to-date summary, core funds is positive 135. As he said in the audit summary, you know, the tax income continues to be strong. Electricity is obviously higher. We're seeing that going up. MFT is negative, but it's just timing on the program. TIF is positive. BDD is positive. So everything's going well. And then if you look at the cash summary, so checking, we have 732,849, savings 982,136, and a total of 1.7 million roughly. You can see for the month we went down because of the MFT expenses and checking. We went down in savings because of the street capital that we transferred over. But year to date, we're up both checking, savings, and total cash. So year to date, we're up 156,000 in cash. So he said last year we were at $240,000 or something to the good. This year through 4 months, we're already 156,000 to the good. There's also this page. I just wanted to call this out. This is the detail cash that we track every month that ultimately shows us where we're at. I've highlighted in yellow anything that was negative. And again, I already told you why those things were negative, but I just want you to know we track the cash every month. One number I would call your attention to is, so that if you look at the operating above August, that $381,248.45, that is the amount of cash that we have in the operating account, the in and out account. Checks come in, checks go out, right? And so if you take that, that's about 4.5 months of reserves just in the operating account. My preference would be to move to have that number go up closer to 6 months. And then if you look down at the bottom, if you take that 381 number plus the total savings number at the bottom, and then divide that into what we spend per month, that's where you get the 15 months down there. I got actually 15 and a half, and we did it separately, so I was a little stronger than what he was. But I just want you to know that every month we're tracking cash to make sure that when we get to the end of the year, we're where we want to be. Big sigh, I'm done.
See, I get a listing twice. So.
Yeah, that's true, you do.
Brings us to committee reports. Mr. Charavalli?
Okay, a few things. Brian and Cassandra did most of here. As you can see on your agenda there, we have 2 ongoing payments. We pay with ACH. And as a result, we're not going to show up on the normal warrant list, the medical benefits and the IEPA loan. Both expenses we approve globally when we pass individual approval for them. However, we do not have an ongoing approval process. So the suggestion would be one of the 2 options of voting to approve them one time on an ongoing basis, or they can add the invoices to the monthly warrant list and have them approved each month.
So basically what he's saying is we've got this payment that we make to IEPA, and we have this payment that we make to Blue Cross Blue Shield that happens through an ACH transfer, so it's not showing up on the warrant list. When you guys voted for the medical benefits, you approved us to spend the money. When you voted for the loan, you approved us to spend the money. But one of the things that came up in our discussions with Aaron is we don't have an ongoing approval process like we do every other expense every month, right? So we can do one of 2 things. You all can either vote and say, you guys have approval to pay that every month, or we can take this sheet right here and she can take the invoices and do just like this, and she can add it to the warrant list every month, and you can look at it every month on the warrant list in addition to the warrant list, and then disapprove it at that time. So it doesn't make any difference to me. Other than if we vote on it on the ongoing basis, I didn't put on there that it would, I didn't put vote on the agenda.
Well, that's not something we really have to vote on. It's just something that we can decide as far as the process.
Yeah.
And the IEPA one once a year.
Twice a year.
Twice a year we vote on it.
Yeah, so what we would do is we would just add it to whatever warrant list, and we'd add the medical to the monthly warrant list, and you guys could just see the invoice. And then we'd have a process for any future ACHs too. So anything new that came in, we could just add it to the warrant list, and then you guys would see it with the others. And
It's fine with me. I don't care either way. I just want to know what to do.
so that's the way you want to do it, just add it to the warrant list each month. Okay. So let it be written.
Everybody might have heard about the unknown ACH charge we have on our bank account. Sandra caught it during her monthly reconciliation of the accounts. The bank told us that they traced the charge back to Intuit, which would be more of a QuickBooks kind of Intuit payment solutions thing, which you all know we don't use. So we checked the routing number from the bank with Intuit payment solutions, and they have no record of the transaction at all. And so they blocked the account. Brian Singer has to be reimbursed. The reimbursement was actually successful. So they decided to put a process in place that will pre-approve all ACH vendors and amounts for every month or every day, really. So any deviation of the transaction will need to be approved by Cassandra and Brian before it goes through. What was the amount?
$397. So it wasn't a ton of money, but it was,
Somebody's doing that on their phone.
It's a lot.
Right.
See, it's one of those,
One of their monthly subscription amounts.
I think it was a yearly
Yeah.
subscription amount.
Yearly, maybe
Yeah.
something smaller, so yeah, that's, but they had no record.
Yeah.
It could have been someone just doing a dip and saying, this one come through, let's see what, if
Right.
I try another one.
Lining
see if we-
into it.
So the silver lining is, since we had a, let's quote unquote fraud claim, that the service, what do they call the service?
ACH positive pay.
ACH positive pay is free. So basically what happens is Cassandra goes through and looks at anybody that we do ACH payments with and says, this is the vendor list. So if we get somebody who wants an ACH payment that's not on the vendor list, she and I get an email. So if somebody tries to do it again, we get an email saying, you want to approve this?
Basically what it's doing, stopping us from having to recreate an entire bank account.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the alternative to this was closing the bank account and opening a new one. And we literally just bought new.
Well, the other thing is too, is she's gone through and looked at what our normal monthly amounts are, so she's put a limit too.
Mhm.
So if it's $10,000 and it comes in at 10,001, we're gonna get an email and say, do you approve this? So, all in all, it was a little scary there for a little bit, thinking somebody might have our account numbers and stuff, but I think it's gonna work out to make us better protected long-term.
Number three, number three, is the discussion again about raising the expense limit for the mayor and Ryan. Currently at 500. My recommendation was to bring it up to 1,000. It's very rare that they need to spend money outside of the normal monthly expenses. But when it does happen, it feels like it might take too long, and $1,000 provides a little bit more flexibility to cover more of the incidents. $1,000 is really minor compared to our overall budget and what we have, so.
And that would also mean you as the board members too. So when we do have those emergency expenses, we would just go from 500 to 1,000. At the end of the day, it's not a huge thing, but it would give us a little bit more flexibility. And if you guys wanted me to do that, we would have to change the code. So I'd have to go to the attorneys and we'd have to change the limit on in our code.
No.
Say what?
500 doesn't buy what you did.
Yeah,
That's true, yeah.
yeah. So do you want me to pursue that with the attorneys to bump it up to 1,000? You want me to leave it at 500?
Do we have any statistics on?
We really don't. And
How much fallen between that 500 and 1,000 mark? How much was your water thing you were saying at the conference?
that was probably under 500. The majority of the time, what it is,
500, but 501 would have.
yeah. Well, you know what, to be honest, the emergencies that we have more often or not is a pump failed or,
I'll say most of them,
Yeah.
1,000 isn't gonna come close to
Yeah.
catching an emergency anyway.
yeah.
That's one thing I thought, there's not a whole heck of a lot out that the board member approves individually for it. I don't care either way.
What
It's
is
not
the
gonna catch an
cost?
emergency because $1,000 is gonna blow away.
To get the ordinance.
Uh,
I mean, we're gonna pay the attorney to do this, plus we have to pay American Legal to add that onto our code.
Yeah, you're
So
right.
we're looking at additional expenses for
Agreed.
something that likely isn't gonna happen.
Agreed. The, just a side note, last year we averaged probably 5,000 a month with the bills group, and our last two bills have been below 1,000 with the attorneys. So we've really cut that down.
Yes.
And it's because of this type of thing. we bring it to you and talk about it before we ever, you know, engage the attorneys. So if you say you don't want to do it, then we don't spend that money. So that's a good point.
Yeah,
I don't,
figured out who
like I
was
said, I don't,
gonna
it doesn't make any really
Remind me to talk to you about that.
difference to me. It's up to you guys. And I think Caleb makes a good point. You know, maybe it should even be more than 1,000, but.
No, I don't, I mean, I think the amount it's gonna take to cover it like a pump is unrealistic to make somebody. In an
I think the
emergency
last one we did
repair,
was
it
1,100,
doesn't-
something like that.
It doesn't need a board approval anyway. I mean, if you have a pump go down, we don't call an emergency meeting and decide whether or not to turn a lift station back on.
Yeah, we
just,
do.
You just get paid, we just approve it after the fact, so.
Again, I'm good.
I just don't know what I just don't know what it'll catch, that's an emergency. Yeah.
I just don't wanna, I mean, I don't mind raising the thing.
Yeah, exactly, I don't mind raising it, I just don't think it's gonna catch.
Yeah.
Just being on, just as long as I've been on the board, I just don't see a lot of things in there that we didn't act on because of that, I mean, conferences and that are, you know, no way ahead of time.
Good. Next.
Do some planning.
No incident reports, because they're currently checking how that stuff's being pulled, right?
Yeah.
Because it didn't, the numbers didn't add up to the, you know,
Number of calls.
number of calls.
We were getting, the last one we got, said there were like 16 calls, but there were same call on there multiple times. And then when you sorted everything up, it only ended up being 9 calls. So I emailed Peoria County and had them talk to them about that and said, you know, I don't think you guys sent 3 guys out on a medical run, but if you did, we understand. We should take care of.
Incident.
What's that?
It'd still be one incident. though.
Yeah, it'd still be
Yeah.
one incident, where we've had, you know, several other things, you know, traffic investigation, only 1 car. You know, then medical, there may be, you know, it may be on the report 2 or 3 times for the same day. So I had, them look at that, I said, you know, how this is being reported isn't coming out right. I said, this is, you know, sort of skewing our numbers, so we definitely need to have it looked at, and they're actually doing that right now. They're taking a look at it, find out so they can get this reported in correctly, so.
In the report.
Thank you. Sanitary sewer. Water.
No numbers to report, really the only thing is that what we've already talked about. ARPA came through for 81,000, so got our second dose of that.
And you will be happy to know that it is in the bank account, ready to be dispersed.
And just FYI, we divided the income between water and sewer, and then we put the cash into the savings under water and sewer. So then when we spend it out of either of those, we can kind of adjust it later, but that's the same thing we did last time. That's the easiest path to get approval to spend it, is using it on water and sewer, because it's kind of blanket approval.
In your report? Buildings ground, Mr. Weaver. Report. I did send you and Roger and Brian, Christmas lights companies, sent a couple emails, there's some discounts going on right now, so I sent you those.
I also gave Brian another card from another company. Did you give that to Roger?
I did.
Okay, Roger has it for another company that was up at the expo. Figure we could at least maybe take a look and see what they had to offer. They're for bigger municipalities where they got the huge Christmas decorations up all over town, but I thought we could take a look and see if they had anything smaller.
If I remember back right, we approved the replacement of 15. They did an analysis. We bought 5 2 years ago. We bought 5 last year or this spring, and he got 5 more to buy this year. And then I think they're done for now. Yeah. I think that he feels like everything's been upgraded. I doubt it.
Decorate for who you want to be, not who you are.
Anything else, Ryan? Streets and alleys? Community Economic Development, SIDAC.
Yes, I called Nate Holland
organization clinic like we did last year. Left an email, they said they get back. That's my progress. And it did take them a while last year to get back to me, so.
Yeah, I think it was almost a couple weeks before the event that they finally got back to you, so.
Just one thing, I haven't had a chance to talk with Zach about this, but I met with Roland Wright of Farmington to look, Roland, excuse me, to look at their BDD and TIF programs and how they manage their money. And they've been in the program for 8 years. Their TIF generates $600,000 a year. And that's two major reasons. They had 3 big projects that came in where they took farm ground and turned it into, one's the nursing home and kitchen cooked, expanded before they sold. And there was one other one I can't remember. So we need big projects, right? We need the Herman Development or EMS or something like that to help us get that, or 8 years of incremental property tax in order to start getting those types of dollars in. So there's not much we can do on TIF, but they do have 2 programs where they run, if someone is going to do something on their home, they can, with a 2,500 cap, they'll pay up to 75% of approved projects for people to do outside stuff to their home.
Basically facade, yeah, curb
Yep.
appeal stuff.
Yep, and they also have a program for businesses. So I've reached out to Gwen and at the attorneys and the financial people to help us with the economic development programs, and they said we can use BDD money for those types of programs. So what I need to do is get with Zach and get with the CEDC and kind of outline what those programs would look like, get CEDC to say, yeah, we think that's something that we want to do, and then I'll bring it back. We wouldn't do anything. The way they do it is with their fiscal year. So they take applications from people leading up to the beginning of their fiscal year. The CEDC then looks at the projects and determines which ones are going to be the best for the village. And then they bring that to the board and say, we want to spend X amount of money on these 10, 12 projects. And then the board says yay or nay. So it'll be next April or May before we get there. So there's really no hurry, and we're going to be building up funds between now and then anyway. But I wanted you to know that we're making some progress on how to use some of those dollars to give back to the community and get some more positive traction on how things are going. And then we talked about the fact that the park districts is redoing their kind of whole mindset. So I don't, they'll come eventually back for funds, but I don't know what it's going to look like.
Administration, Mr. Miller?
The cleaning position has been filled by a young lady named Carly Haven, local girl. Trial basis, but I think she'll be okay on that.
You said you knew her?
Yeah.
Nice.
Her mom was, she was from Eden, in Prison Road, where she lives at. General liability insurance will be coming soon. More of that by the end of the year, and the medical benefits. We'll go over that with the board in November.
Okay, everybody should have under other business, should have a copy of a village ordinance. This would realign our ordinance with the position of each of the trustees. And, before, streets and alleys is one, and water was one, sewer was one, planning or zoning was one, and then police and planning, then zoning and finance, so, and buildings and grounds. So of those 6, we've done some rework since we had the shorter amount of trustees for a while, combined a few. So this would get everybody back in line
We do finance, that would be Mr. Chiravalli. Community and economic development would be Mr. Sidak. Planning and zoning would be Mr. Johnson. Streets and buildings and grounds and garbage would be Mr. Weaver. Water, sewer, and sanitation would be Mr. Pearson, and administration would be Mr. Miller.
Yep.
And then we will go through these and redo the individual committees. So everybody will have their primary committee and then 2 additional portions like we did before for our committee.
Responsibilities don't change. We're basically just getting the code to better reflect what we're currently doing, with the exception of one possibility. We talked about moving police to administration. So if you guys are both okay with that, you'll need to show him what that means, but
Oh, we need 2 details.
you'll be in charge of the cops.
How can handle that?
And then I just gotta
And you have
send
to
a,
make sure I get the numbers.
Because we don't have, I mean, it's a relic of them, there's a police department, so there's not much that goes along with it. Most of them, yeah.
and then just to clarify real quick, Jeff, your email is finance.tr, right?
Right.
Okay. Zach, what is your current one?
It is the buildings and grounds email.
Okay,
So that should be CEDC, I guess.
yeah.
And I can already tell he's a way better finance chair than I was. You're right on top of it.
Keep yours and I'll sign yours.
Okay.
I think we agree.
More in your wheelhouse.
And then he'd become, oh, I'm sorry. What's yours, water? I think we can just keep that, right?
Yeah, clean water, dirty water, water.
Water and
Exactly.
streets, I don't think need to change. His is already admin.
Yeah.
So, and then, so Caleb's would become planning and zoning or PZ or something.
PZ.
He wants to get rid of.
Yeah,
That was the whole purpose of this.
PZTR.
To get rid of- to change my email from PP trustee.
Now you've got me writing PP.
Yeah.
PZ. TR.
And then you'll make that an alias for planning and zoning, so anything that keeps coming to that old one.
Yeah,
It
because
would come on the
economic
plan.
statements will come to the old ones.
Which
Yeah.
he'll set it up so it's.
Yeah, it'll- so when Zach gets his new email, which will be CEDCTR, the old buildings and ground email will be an alias, so anything that's sent to the old buildings and grounds will automatically go to his new email.
And if it's related to buildings and grounds, you can forward it to Rod.
Eventually it gets way sorted out.
And then planning and zoning will be PZTR, and anything that was under PPTR will be forwarded automatically.
Yeah. So we'll see with the county, with the police reports, they just need to add one and take one off. That would be
Yeah,
easy.
I'll
So,
just email them again like I did before.
Yeah.
So they just, the cops just, the county just emails you?
Yeah, the
stuff?
sheriff's department, they just send out.
I'm gonna have to up my game on my laptop. I'll meet with you.
The other thing we can do if you want is, we can have it sent, we used to have it sent to Tracy too, didn't we? And then she printed them, or?
Maybe, I think yeah, because they used to be in the board packet, and then usually right before the meeting, or when everybody else is talking, I'll look at my email, pull them up and write them down.
We'll figure it out.
Part of my meeting,
So Zach, you will get an email, or actually not email, I'll send you a text message with your username and password, which I'll just send you a new password for that CEDCTR. Same with you, I'll just send you a text with a new password, so you can add it to your phone. So before we have an ordinance in front of us, this is the first ordinance we've done in a long time.
That's a good thing.
So, so the ordinance before us is ordinance 22-09-01, an ordinance amending the village code of the village of Hannah City to change standing committees. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion by Weaver. Second by Gervali. Any further discussion? Roll call at Pearson,
Yes.
Gervali,
Yes.
Sidak,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Miller.
Yeah.
Motion carries. Everybody should have gotten a link in their email. I sat through a lot of too many PowerPoint presentations at the IML to go over different subjects. I've given Brian some USDA stuff. I have sent stuff out to USDA to do follow-up. One of the gentlemen's on vacation this week, of course. Our home office is out of Galesburg, is where the people that would control us for USDA funding for anything which would be Reconnect Illinois to rural development, things like that. They're all out of Galesburg, so waiting for them to get back into town. I also gave Brian some information on a I can't think of it.
Water service warranty.
Yeah, water service warranty for our residents. So basically anything from the main up to their house, they could get a warranty on, so if it breaks, then it would cover it.
The one interesting thing I had, and this is what I wanted to talk to you about, is I think we ought to at least reach out to them and ask the question. I'm assuming they would want to know it's in good condition before they would warranty it, right? So does that give us an automatic way for,
But they don't check it.
you don't think they check
Yeah,
it?
There's no way in the world.
There's no way they're gonna dig
Is
lines
it
up.
from Illinois American?
No,
No.
it is from, Brian, you have the card there?
Yeah.
I've seen advertisements before for some of these home
Yeah.
places where you warranty service lines of different kinds.
And you will
They just
get,
play in the game of
if they
averages.
do that, because it comes third class mail, because I get them for Illinois American out in Farmington to residents, and people think they're getting scammed.
Yeah, this is from
You're gonna wanna see
NLC.
a list of
What's that?
perils, a list of perils that would be covered under the warranty, reasons for breaking.
Yeah, and that's why I talked to Mike Chambers. He's one of the regional directors for the company. It's called NLC Service Line Warranty Program by HomeServe. Yeah, and he said if, the board was interested, he's out of Pittsburgh. He said he would, be more than happy to come talk to the board.
What would we have to do with it?
Nothing. Doesn't cost us anything.
We just pass the option on to them.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I'll call him.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. I had my water meter replaced today.
Out in the yard?
No.
You should put replace in the basement. and shoot
Someday,
yourself in the foot.
someday.
Well, we do them one at a time that way. We don't have to do them.
I'm with you. I hear you.
Brian?
Are you done with IML?
Some of these leaky
Did we
waters.
vote on the committee?
Yeah.
Yes, but I don't have a number. It was, I didn't write it down.
1901.
That's what-
All right, sorry to the people online because I won't be able to show you, but we ran I think most of you guys have seen this, but we ran a design contest to look at some kind of logos for the village, and people got to vote on them, you included, those that took advantage. This is the one that won.
Did you design that?
No, so the way it works is, Design Crowd is, you write up a description and you send it out, and we got 65 entries. It costs you a little over $300 to do it. This is the one that won. The other design, there's one very similar to it, but the point here would be to use it on our websites or t-shirts or that kind of stuff. Eventually, if we put it on t-shirts, you guys will have to approve the expense to do that or whatever. But our thoughts were we could use them. This came out of the CEDC. We had some discussion about giving new residents something or doing something, having giveaways or that kind of stuff, where we can sell them, obviously, to get some of our money back. Yeah, so we're gonna look at, we're gonna get some prices on t-shirts. I'm actually, this is not even though this design won, it's not the one I'm ordering. I'm gonna show you why. Because this is the same design. but he had it on both the front and the back. So if I make this one the winner, I get this artwork
I like that.
plus this
I
artwork.
like that better on the front, having that on the chest and then
Yeah.
that on the back.
So I
Me
get,
too.
so I get both the artwork, but again, this is the one I'm ordering, so we can get both of them. But the majority of the people voted like it better on the front than they did the back. And again, we'll look at cost and that kind of stuff. We'll bring back recommendations. The one that got second, we're also gonna order. And we're gonna use it to replace kind of the old Centennial Circle one.
Are we updating our logo then?
Yeah, we'd be updating this old Centennial logo and using this one on the website and
Letterhead.
stationery, letterhead, those types of things. What, you gotta
They'll
make,
send you a copy of it.
you have to get new business cards?
Well, I didn't print very many. so-
Yeah, I have got new business cards now.
So this one was second to the other design. So again, I just wanted to give you an update.
I hated that my old ones with the old business address on them, because nobody visits you in person, so. I hated not that they were gone. Now I don't have to pay for them.
Move it to March Madness or something.
For sure.
What do you guys think about giving new residents a shirt?
You have other size. so-
Well, the CEDC actually said if they come in, they could ask what their size was, and then people on the CEDC said they would even go out to the home, knock on the door, welcome them to the town, and give them the shirt if we wanted to.
I wasn't specifically the person that said you did.
Anyway, it's just something to think about.
Are those available for anybody who isn't trying to buy it?
They are.
Is that even now, people can buy it?
We haven't, if we're gonna do it, we'll have to get quotes on the shirts and then bring them in. We'll show you what we're gonna order, and you guys will have to approve the expense before we would ever do it. And then we'd show you how many we could sell and how much money we'd make and those types of things. So they would be available to sell. Yeah,
They're buying them.
who would be?
Residents are buying it for the village.
Correct. We would buy them, have them here in boxes, and then the residents could buy them. The other thing we could do is sell them to businesses at cost. So let's say they cost us $10 to make. Well, the warehouse could buy them for $10 and then turn around and sell them for 25 or something like that. And they could,
Sell them for 23.
yeah. So again, we're gonna put all that together and come back to you, but we just wanted to kind of freshen up some of the design. And again, it came out of some discussions with the CEDC, so. That's it.
Photos. We now have scheduled times to get photos for the website for Jeff, Zach, Caleb, and Eric. The photographer will be here. You have a photo, but it doesn't match.
It's got the flag, everybody else has the.
You have the old one from the old board picture. Yeah, you don't have the one.
No, it's gotta be
No.
individual.
Individual. The photographer will be here on October 18th. She's gonna be here just a little bit before the board meeting that night, so if you guys can show up just a few minutes early,
That's handy.
Do we have a
that would be great.
background?
She's gonna bring the backdrop.
Okay.
I could send you a selfie and take it tonight.
No.
No, they won't stick to that.
Collared shirt, preferably.
Whatever.
Tie, Zach,
We're just
tie.
all gonna wear the
I
same
would,
shirt?
I would settle for
We're all gonna wear the
Eric's,
same shirt?
I would settle for Eric having sleeves.
Oh, hey,
It's
get-
hard to cool down, so
hey,
I'll have sleeves on.
Get you one of those tuxedo shirts and cut the sleeves off.
Get her done. Thank you, Cassandra. Circle back.
Get your name in front.
We didn't really talk about it, but, the tap, what's the opinion of the board, as far as doing this? Cause if we do, we wanna put it on an agenda item. We can have a discussion about it. We don't have to vote, can't vote on it, so.
Yeah, so the way if the question is, do you want me to work through the attorneys and put it on the agenda for next time to increase the number of licenses? In the way of background information, again, I don't have a dog in the hunt. I think everybody agrees that the building would need to be up to code before we would allow that, so that's key. I think on one hand, we've raised the bar in terms of what we expect people to do to get a liquor and gaming license at this point. But yet on the other side, this is really kind of a renewal based upon an unfortunate accident rather than somebody new. So maybe that has a little different connotation than.
And they already had the.
So what happened to the spot that they had?
So what happens is the way the code is written is if somebody passes away, the owner of liquor and gaming, then the liquor and gaming license stop. They,
Right. But was there so many?
But they were
There's so
issued to
many
somebody else.
allotted for the city, so who took the one that was already allotted?
yeah, so since that time in the last year, KP's is one. We've promised the Chevrolet's one for the if they do something in the mall, and we granted one to the coffee can, and so
Gaming.
huh?
The gaming of the coffee.
And liquor. Well, they already had
They
liquor.
had that long
Yeah,
time ago, though.
yeah.
Yeah, KP's
And
still
so-
liquor, but they haven't pursued the state one to actually serve it yet. They have it, but I don't know.
They actually haven't. So
Can't
K,
use either one of them, really? Really? I mean,
I don't know.
maybe gambling probably.
The
And
Hasn't happened
gaming,
yet.
you have to have a liquor license.
to
Because they go hand in hand.
KP's has not paid for theirs yet, so they've been promised one, and we've got it already, but they haven't come in and paid for it. Goalie's not used either of his yet, although I think he's close to getting the liquor license where he's going to use it. I don't know whether he's going to use the gaming or not. These aren't guaranteed forever, so come next spring in April, it's renewal time again. We don't have to renew them all.
Everybody we approved paid for one through the village.
The only people who haven't paid is KP's.
Okay, we approved them for one and they didn't pay for one, so they
Yeah.
don't hold one right now.
Correct. They have not come to pay or pick it up.
Technically, we haven't opened one then. Is what
Yep.
it amounts to.
We have a promise out there.
We approved it,
We
right?
approved them for one, they just haven't,
Correct. So I would want to make sure they understood,
I mean, the tap's kind of a renewal because obviously it was, the way it happened wasn't planned.
and this is
And
where,
if she's going whole hog in and repairing everything and bringing it up to code, that's gonna make a difference too, because, that would kind of be, we do have a higher bar, I think, than we did before, and sounds like she's trying to meet that bar,
And she was from that Mike place,
She owns my place, yeah.
because they always do that St. Jude.
Yeah, my place, for its size, easily probably has it's like size to dollars raised, St. Jude fundraiser. My wife used to do that. She used to work for St. Jude, and my place blows the ratios out. As small as they aren't as much as they do six figures every year. Usually places like that do 20 to 30,000, and they feel great, and they'll do 110 a year on their fundraisers. It's kind of ridiculous
So
what
she
they
does
do.
give back.
Yeah.
We're one of the stops in Bellevue, she does a lot.
Me well.
So we're one of the stops on that ride, she does.
Oh, yeah.
She does a lot.
It's unreal what they raise for that every year.
I thought Abraham owned that building.
No.
Never?
Cindy
No.
Cindy owned that.
They
for-
might,
She took it over
I
from,
think-
Bought that years ago, maybe it was just a temporary.
I
thing.
think they
They
did
got in
the
trouble.
gaming. They
Well-
own some of the machines maybe, right?
all the machines, I
I'm
think, are
talking
pretty much
15,
done.
20 years ago, they got in a fine, I heard Abraham bought them out, but maybe it was a thing that he just gave them a loan or something, help them out, and then they paid it back or something. I haven't
Yeah,
done
it could
on
be,
that
because
building.
some mortgages like that, some private mortgages will actually show up in the recorder as a deed, because you're transacting part of the title, so it could have been something like that, they could have had like a private mortgage. But it would, that would have transferred some ownership, because there would have been a deed recorded to do that, so that could be true. It just wouldn't be a sale in the conventional terms,
You can look
I
that
just
up.
wondered, I drive by all the time and go, well, I don't know what's gonna happen to that place.
Yeah,
Then I always wondered why Abraham's, they're sold out now, they still fight for water, but. Oh, man, they didn't do any of that. Or what,
Yeah, well, I meant, from the sounds of it, at least she is going through, and getting that, my personal opinion is I know she says she's going through and everything. I know our inspectors have been through there once and gave them a list of things that definitely need to be done. I would feel more comfortable as bringing it back to the board. I don't know what your opinion is. Once we've had, the building inspector say, yeah, it's good to go.
because there was
Because,
some significant structural stuff.
yes,
I would almost say it'd have to be contingent on that.
yeah, I guess there's,
Because if she's gonna sit here and just keep putting thousands of dollars into the place for us to tell her
Exactly.
it's got no worth as a bar,
Yeah.
that would be, a good heads up for somebody.
I think there's two ways to approach it. One would be to tell her, come back once you got the building done and everything, code and everything's approved, and we'll vote on it. Or the other thing is to grant it and make it contingent upon everything being up to code.
But maybe she's gonna fix it regardless, because it might not have any selling value to her.
Right.
Not being in the shape it's in.
Yeah.
She's got
Well,
I feel like I'm probably going to abstain from the vote altogether.
Understand.
Too much skin in the game, but that,
Yeah.
as a fellow bar owner, I would say, it'd be great to have that answer sooner than later before she builds a brand new bar in there.
Yeah, it sounds like, it sounds like she's essentially building a brand new bar.
So
And
we
it's
could,
gotta be we gotta give her a finite list too. Whoever inspector did, we got to sit down with them and
Matt. should
it
have
can't
that.
just be make it right and then we go in and decide what we want it to be right that
I
time.
think
It's gotta
Matt
be
should
A,
have a
B, C,
list on
D.
that.
His big things were the foundation and the electrical. I don't know if you had anything else, because I know your inspector looked at it too.
Yes, it was the foundation was the big one, electrical, and then there was certain water. But, I thought there was an issue with it, with the church grounds.
It's,
Plenty distance?
it is right on the
It's
border.
right on the border.
Yep.
Make sure we have-
Yeah.
As far as what?
It has to be 150, or is it 100?
I can't remember. It has to be so far away from any church building.
But for who? For us, for the state, for?
No, for our code.
Well, that's
would have
great,
had
but if
to
the thing
been-
existed before the code
Yeah.
existed, then it doesn't matter.
Well,
You can't
right
just-
now it's not.
Yeah, that's true.
That doesn't matter.
It makes it, I actually, I've already done the research. It's right on the line, but it makes it.
Yeah.
Because we discussed that, myself and Fred had discussed that.
Yeah. I guess it went away, so you could say that it's a new establishment, but
And
they may have something to say about it since it never.
all we're deciding
technically
right,
anything else.
all we're deciding right now is whether or not you want me to have the attorneys go through the process of doing the work to change the ordinance to upgrade, to add both a gaming and liquor. And then we can have all the discussion and vote on it at the next meeting. Question is, do we want to spend those attorney fees to do that?
So what if we say, well, contingent upon you getting all this?
Or I can call her tomorrow and say, once the building's up to code, call us.
I mean, I think
Yeah, she's
financially.
crazy.
That would be
Scum.
implying that's your only restriction, though.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just a plain say, yeah, once you're the code, then we'll give it to you.
Well, I mean, I can say it differently than that. I can say, if once the
it's
building's,
code, then we'll consider it
yeah,
and see if she wants to keep pouring money into it.
That's what I'm. If this was a new business.
It seems like she had no guarantee. She knows she had no guarantee to get it before, and she was still doing all these repairs, right?
correct. Now,
That's what
see,
gets me.
in the first conversation I had with her, I told her that the board would want the building to be up to code before they would grant anything.
Yeah.
She took that, but I also told her, come to the meeting and talk about it.
Yeah.
Remember, and I had her on the agenda, and then
Yeah.
she didn't come. Well, she says the reason she didn't come is because she felt like she needed to get the building up to code before she came to talk to us. Which is, I don't think what I said, but that's the way she took it.
Yeah.
So,
Almost like it was a contingency then, just get it up to code and give it back to you, you know?
Well,
It'd be,
I think she's pretty determined to open it back up.
it's a tough denial if she fixes the place up and brings it, throws all the money she's gonna need to in it, brings it totally back up to justify not giving it to her, I guess.
So
But they
I have-
didn't.
I have
close
one
it.
vote for calling her and telling her to bring it up to code, and then we'll talk. Is that how everybody else feels, or does everybody else feel like we ought to do it and make it contingent? Okay, 1-1.
I don't wanna lead her, I wanna make it. I don't wanna lead her along. It's, yes or no, if she make it up to code, are we gonna approve it or not?
2-1.
Yeah,
You're out. So Zach and Eric,
Just having another bar in town, a competing bar, being on the board, it just doesn't look right to me. I feel like
we already promised him one if he opened another
No,
spot.
I actually originally, just to elaborate, I originally approached her for that to be my location. I was in negotiations with Cindy at the time she passed.
That's why you're inspector.
A few months later, I went and met Jody too, buy it off her, and we never came to a conclusion, and I asked her about a liquor license, actually. Have you talked to the board to see if you could get one? She said she has not yet, she didn't see there being any problem with getting one at that time. I knew better than that, so our discussions and, it kind
So
of.
you talked way back in the day to Cindy before you were looking at doing something way back then.
Correct.
You're still up, okay.
Conversations with Sydney and me started like 2 weeks after I turned 21.
Oh, no kidding.
5 years I've been talking about buying that, and then Sydney was finally ready,
Yeah.
and then passed. And I talked to Jody, but like I said, she thought it wasn't gonna be hard to get one, it looked harder to me, so that's.
Zach, Eric, contingent, don't care, or make her bring it up to code. Right. I will call her tomorrow.
Okay. If anybody really, really wants to look at all those events that I sent through, that I did send a list out to everybody, should have got a link in your email to look at them through SharePoint, so they're out there. If anybody has any questions on any of them or wants anything, more information, we can always get it. For the 4 new trustees, I say 4 new, Ryan, Eric, Jeff, and Zach, I did get you all new, newly elected official guides at the IML conference, but I forgot to bring them this evening. So I will have them here actually, I'll have them in your boxes in the office. I'm working from home again tomorrow, so I will make sure they get brought up and put in your boxes. They're only this big.
Yeah, that'll fit.
It's a book just like this. So, I did bring up, just under other business real quick, it's not on here. I have a class that I need to take for work. So there may be some meetings in October where I'll have to, assign a, pro tem mayor. I've talked to Rod on those. He said he would do those. If for some reason that he is not able to do that, Caleb, would you be willing also to step in as pro tem mayor?
Yeah, it should be here.
Okay. Clay, is there anything I need to do if I need to, do I need to do anything to have them be pro tem mayor?
I think a vote of the board approving it should seal the deal. You have the power to do that, and so long as everybody else approves, it should not be a problem.
Okay. Do they have to be specific dates or?
No, just, put a notice on the agenda as always. I will get back to you if I find any other more onerous requirements, but electing a pro tem mayor is not a big deal procedurally. Just make sure to vote on it.
Okay. Anything else to come before the board this evening? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, Clay.
Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye, guys. See ya.